Robertsdale, Summerdale, on down to, well, not as much in Foley, but right on down the beach, the Fish River, Weeks Bay area, and Gulf Shores. Very heavy rain. I was looking at our Gulf Shores camera a little bit earlier, and there's a swath of some very heavy rain coming across the beach as we speak. So we will continue to see these waves of rain, these spiral bands, or these feeder bands from the hurricane, Hurricane Nate, continue to swing in from the Gulf of Mexico, wrapping around the center of the circulation, which is actually right down here. You can kind of see there's a little swirl, and as it gets closer and closer to the radar site, it's actually still pretty far away. We're tapping into the New Orleans radar as well as the Mobile radar, so we're trying to zero in on exactly where this storm is, and to try to identify an eye or an eye wall when it's a little bit farther out is a little more difficult. But right down in here, we do think that's roughly where the eye is. This is where the eye of the storm is. It could briefly touch land over the mouth of the Mississippi River, but we are expecting it to continue to track to the north, heading up to the Mississippi coast by later on tonight. The time frame between 10 and 12 o'clock tonight. Here's a close-up view of where we believe the eye of the circulation is, right in here, and that's the core of the strongest, the heaviest winds. So wherever that does make landfall, that's where we're going to find most of the wind-related damage associated with this hurricane. But it's really to the right of where this storm makes landfall that will have the widest wind field and the biggest impact as far as storm surge and as far as a tornado threat as well. Here's our high-res satellite picture. And again, that center that we're looking at on the radar is roughly right in here. There's been a big flare-up of storms just to the north of the center as this thing, it doesn't want to give up anytime soon. It is a fairly fast-moving hurricane, and it's moving over very warm waters. That accounts for the increase in strength that we have seen during the course of the day today, a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane. So it's trying to still hold on to its strength as it gets closer and closer to the coast. Again, the mouth of the Mississippi River is right there, and the center of the storm just to the south of that big ball of magenta that just started to flare up in the last couple of hours or so as it makes its way closer and closer to Mississippi. Again, the latest advisory that we're working off of, it came out about an hour and a half ago, the 4 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center. 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds gusting to 100, moving to the north-northwest at 23 miles per hour. Now, at that speed, it's maintained basically that speed, if not faster, during the day today. At that speed, it will hit the Mississippi coast between 10 and midnight tonight. The pressure has dropped now 981 millibars. It's about 166 miles away from Mobile, and I tracked the center using a tool that we have back at the Weather Center, and we're estimating right now it's about 130 miles away from the coast of Mississippi. So we're looking at about 5 hours or so for a potential landfall. Sometimes these storms do slow down a little bit as they get a little bit closer to the coast, and of course there's some land here that may interact with the wind field, and that could slow down the forward motion of the storm before it hits land. But we are anticipating it between 10 o'clock and midnight tonight. And of course, a landfall in Harrison County or Jackson County, Mississippi still means that we are on the east side of this storm, and that will have the most significant impact outside of the core of the strongest winds of the eye wall as it makes landfall. So we're talking about heavy-duty storm surge and that tornado threat. I don't want to discount the tornado threat with this storm because it will be widespread. We've already had a couple of spots, a waterspout offshore Gulf Shores earlier this afternoon, and one potential tornado in Jackson County, Mississippi. So that's going to be a potential as we go through tonight and into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, it is still a tropical storm moving through Birmingham and closer to Huntsville. This is 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday with 50-mile-per-hour winds. And back behind me, by the way, we're looking at, I believe that's Gulfport, Mississippi, the Highway 90 area right along the bay. You can see a really choppy, sloppy-looking bay, Mississippi Sound there. And we're finding similar conditions on Mobile Bay as well. This is the latest forecast advisory, the forecast track of this hurricane. We will get new numbers, new data coming in from the hurricane hunters that are flying around the storm. They don't actually have very far to go, as the Air Force hurricane hunters are based in Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. Also, some of the other NOAA planes that are based out of Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base, are flying out across to the storm. So they're getting a really good look at what this storm is doing and where it's headed. Again, we're looking at a late night landfall between 10 p.m. and midnight on Saturday. Tonight, most likely area along the Mississippi coast, anywhere from Gulfport to Biloxi to possibly as far east as the Pascagoula area. Significant storm surge for Mobile and Baldwin counties. We're already starting to see the effects of the wind on the water, not only from these live pictures here in Mississippi, but also along our causeway and along our beaches. And I would fully expect the causeway to be overrun by water with this significant push of water coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane warnings remain in effect from Baldwin County westward all across Mississippi. That includes Gulfport, Biloxi, Pascagoula areas, and inland as well, because we will see hurricane force winds, or at least the possibility of hurricane force winds, all the way to the north as far north as Washington County. Here's the pinpoint predictor, and keep in mind this is just one forecast model of the many that we analyze back at the Weather Center. So this is just an idea of what we're expecting here with the potential landfall here around 10 o'clock midnight. This is indicating a little bit later, but at any rate, it will be making landfall tonight and then quickly racing up to the north. Additional bands of showers dragging back behind, moving through northwest Florida, and that could also pose an additional tornado threat before things really start to settle down by Sunday night. The hour-by-hour forecast of the winds peaking around midnight, 1 a.m., so a steady and dramatic ramp up in the wind speeds as we get closer to midnight. And the hurricane strength, a major hurricane would be the equivalent of a jet aircraft taking off or landing, that kind of speed. For a hurricane, a non-major hurricane, we're talking about high-speed rail. So we're in that 90-mile-per-hour range right now with Hurricane Nate. As it drops down to a tropical storm, that's 39 miles per hour to 74 miles per hour. That's basically where we travel in cars, so that kind of speed. As far as the wind speeds are concerned right now, steady, sustained winds at 15 to 20 all across our area, but it's the short-term burst of wind, the gusts that we're finding that are much stronger, 24-mile-per-hour gust in Mobile. We did have 30-mile-per-hour gusts a little bit earlier in a couple of other reporting locations, 30-mile-per-hour gust in Pensacola, and some of the oil platforms off the coast of Louisiana and Mississippi reporting gusts topping 50 miles per hour so far. And as that storm, the storm center, gets closer and closer to us, we will continue to see the winds increase. In fact, we're getting new data coming in. You see the numbers changing. As soon as we get those reports in, it automatically changes right on our screen. So 25-mile-per-hour wind gust in Fairhope and gusting to 24 in Gulf Shores. And we're finding some swaying of palm trees there on the beach. And if anybody's left any patio furniture or anything like that, umbrellas out, not a good idea. And if you haven't done so, take all of that stuff down right now. In fact, we're getting to that point of where it's a little bit too late to start to take those precautions and prepare for this hurricane. Again, the hurricane warning remains in effect through tonight and into tomorrow morning. Baldwin County west across all of Mississippi, and that's the zone where we are expecting the landfall a little bit later on tonight. Again, our time frame, we've narrowed it down. 10 p.m. to midnight, and the area-wise, we've also narrowed it down. Basically a Jackson County, Harrison County, Mississippi area with some significant impacts here in South Alabama as well. That's where things stand right now. As soon as we get a new update from the National Hurricane Center, we'll turn it back around and send it back out to you. And also, we're monitoring the radar for the local impacts on some of these rain bands that are coming through that are also having some significant impacts with a wind-driven heavy rain coming through, especially in Mobile and Baldwin counties right now. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Greg and Kim.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. And we're seeing that things are really starting to pick up out there right now. You're looking at Gulf Shores. We have seen it as it's progressing, and it is getting progressively worse.
Yeah, Corey Pippen is there. We talked to you a little while ago, Corey, and it looks like things have continued to intensify as far as what's coming on shore.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg, Kim. That's the perfect word for it. It has intensified a lot. Take a look at this right here. Look at the wind hitting me in the face, the rain just pounding us here. This was completely different just 20 minutes ago, the last time we talked to you guys. And I think the most important thing to notice, especially with all of this right now, is the beach, the flooding. You probably can't even see it because it's so gray out there from the rain and the wind whipping this around. But the beach, the storm surge has actually begun to flood up to where we're standing right here. And that's a good football field or so away from the water itself. So who knows how long, I mean, this is just the beginning. So who knows how long before all of this is completely flooded. Behind me, You can see the water starting to pour up here. Not extremely deep, I'd say probably an inch or so above the sand, but I mean, it's definitely concerning. And this is a big deal why police don't want folks around here, don't want them on the beach. Like earlier, the guy that over there, he's gone now, which is a good idea because the situation's getting extremely dangerous. This wind, you can probably hear it. I mean, it's pulling me. The trees over here are whipping. Not sure if this is just a band through, if this is what we're going to be dealing with for the next few hours, if this is going to start dying again and going back to calm. But as you can see, hats starting to fly off, actually having a hard time seeing you guys or talking to you. So, you know, we're going to be out here watching these conditions gradually deteriorate, but as you can see, it's really, really bad.
All right, Corey Pippen live down there in Gulf Shores. Corey, thank you for the update. And as you can see, it is getting to that dangerous situation. Our meteorologists tell us it's 45 to 50 mile an hour gusts down there. And that's when some of those things that are just out and about and loose can take flight and be very dangerous projectiles. And that's the biggest reason right now not to be out there. We're going to try and send you the pictures so that you can stay home and watch. We don't want you out there watching it in the elements.
And that wind is going to double in speed before it's all over. We're talking about up to 90-degree wind speed, of course, is out there. Christian Jennings is in Beulah Battery, where they started seeing the waters rise there earlier, where there was a voluntary evacuation order in place for some of those residents there. Christian, what is it looking like there? You can tell you don't have as much rain as the Gulf Shores is getting right now.
No, it's pretty quiet here. Very, very light drizzle. That's all. You can take a look. We are actually near Portersville Bay now. You can see the water's pretty calm. And actually, if you look out in the distance, that's Coffee Island. And we're told that you couldn't even see that island about 30, 45 minutes ago. And the tide was up pretty high. I mean, the water rushed over the roadway here. This is Shell Belt Road. You can actually see there's some driftwood in the roadway right here. So we're going to move this out of the way if we can, so that cars can get by, because there have been a few cars driving up and down here to take a look. Officials are encouraging people not to do that, but you do have some looky-loos, people wanting to get out and check things out. You can see, but the water was over the roadway pretty high here earlier. Now it's receded, but we expect it to come back, that's for sure, when we have the storm surge coming in later tonight. We're actually joined here by a city councilman here in Beulah Battery, Henry Barnes. So just tell us the latest conditions. We know there's no curfew, but there is a voluntary evacuation.
Voluntary evacuation, you know, if you've got like medical issues, especially go to Burns. I think Burns Middle School's open. Theodore's the closest shelter for anyone wanting to evacuate. And no, we don't do a curfew because our citizens, I mean, we're working waterfront, and, you know, the boat owners and the shop owners, they need to be able to check their boats and their shops periodically, you know, as there's lulls like now. Right. And most of what you see riding around is, you know, shop owners and boat owners. I've talked to a couple, and, you know, it's not our first rodeo. They're all buckled down and, you know, ready for whatever comes.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir, so much. We're going to end it with a live look out on the bay right here. Looking beautiful right now, but don't let that deceive you. Make sure you have your plans in place and that you are prepared for what's to come later tonight. Kim and Greg, let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Kristen, thanks so much. Henry Barnes, councilman there in Beulah Battery. Also, the mayor there, Beulah Battery, Terry Downey, telling NBC 15 News they have issued a voluntary evacuation, as Henry just said. It's not their first rodeo. They know what they're doing down there. They've had hurricanes before. This will certainly not be the last, but the big thing is tonight, just be safe.
All right, now on the causeway, we saw earlier that water was lapping over. Local 15's Lance Crawford is standing by, and you see it is rising quickly.
Yeah, Kim, it is. In fact, since the last time we spoke to you, now it would be the slow lane on the eastbound causeway now just about covered with water. As we look further down towards the eastern shore, the water is even coming further over the roadway. It is still open at the moment. There is traffic coming this way, but again, you're down to about one lane. I have not spoken to anyone yet to see if they're going to close it anytime soon. We will check with that shortly. But there is, in fact, there is one car coming, but right now you cannot use the slow lane on the eastbound causeway as water is now crashing over the seawall and beginning to encroach here. It really hasn't been too bad as far as the wind in the last few minutes, but still the water is continuing to come over, so it will not be long. If we really get a lot of wind kicking over or kicking up, that water will come over even further, and I imagine that the causeway will probably be shut down very shortly. At the moment, the wind's not blowing that badly. We're under the overpass here of the Bayway, so we're protected from the wind a little bit and the rain. It's not too bad at the moment, but again, it will not be long, guys, and the causeway will be completely covered. Again, we had a truck go by in the fast lane. You're still able to use that if anyone was driving, which we don't recommend. But again, the causeway doesn't have much longer until it will be shut down. Guys, we'll check back in with you in just a bit.
All right, Lance, and we see this with just about a regular thunderstorm, how that causeway floods, and you're talking about a hurricane coming in. It's going to get bad down there.
Yeah, it's going to be bad all along the coast, including Dauphin Island. Jeff Collier, the mayor there, is on the phone with us right now. And Mayor, I know that right now the causeway leading to the bridge is already covered and things are kind of locked up down there, as they usually are in this situation.
Well, yeah, we had one of the feeder bands came through a little earlier, had quite a bit of heavy rain, and then we had a little bit of a lull. But I think right now the biggest thing we got going is a lot of water, storm surge, high tides coming in, and a lot of issues getting to be started down on the West End areas right now. It seems to be the most pressing thing.
Oh, they're saying have a lot of your residents down there evacuated the area.
Well, particularly from the West End section, I was down there earlier today, and it seemed pretty isolated. Didn't seem like there was a lot of folks down there, and that's really a good thing because that, again, is one of the most vulnerable areas that we have, and it's always better to get that area kind of free of folks if we can. And so, yeah, I think they heeded the warnings and have prepared, and so now we'll just have to see what Nate has to offer.
What are you most worried about? I know that the wind's probably going to be between 90 and 100 miles an hour when Nate comes on shore. The surge, however, about 9 feet at high tide and also with a full moon tonight. You're used to having a lot of water on that island. Is this going to be anything out of the ordinary?
Well, yeah, I think it will, and I think, to answer your question, what are we concerned about? I'd say all the above, Greg, to be honest. We would rather not have this thing come at all, but we've got to deal with what we have, and certainly the storm surge is going to be an issue. And as you all touched on, the road leading to the island, and I've been saying this for a couple of days, that the two things that I think come to mind is the road coming to the island and then the West End area. I know those are the two normally most vulnerable areas, and that seems to be proving itself to be true tonight. And, and it's not just those things. I mean, there's other parts of the island that we'll have some flooding as well, but those are the more prominent areas.
As of now, Mayor, the road going in and out of the island is closed.
Are you telling me that or asking me that?
I'm asking you that. I'm asking
No,
you that.
no, ma'am.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
not.
As far as I know, it is not. I have not been told that. Our police department is going to be monitoring that road pretty much on the hour. We've been in touch with the Department of Transportation, and we have a connection with them. But as far as I know, at this point, the road is not closed. It will likely get overwash, possibly get some other debris, but that would probably come more so when the storm reaches landfall. But we're going to be monitoring all of that.
So, Mayor, that's pretty important. I know earlier we got word that the causeway leading to the Dauphin Island Bridge had been closed, and therefore on and off the island was closed as well. So you're saying that if there is somebody right now that wants to evacuate the island, it is still open for them to do that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As far as I know, the roadway is still open, and again, it's on a case-by-case basis. It will stay open unless Nate closes it. AlDOT nor the town of Dauphin Island will be making a decision to close it. At least that's the plan. So if Mother Nature decides that it makes it perilous to go or impassable, then that's when it will close. So, yeah, folks that might want to leave at this point, I would say leave while it's still daylight, because as we get later into the night, that's going to be a more treacherous piece of highway, and it'd probably be better just to stay at that point.
All right, thank you so much, Dauphin Island Mayor Jeff Collier. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Stay safe, be careful there on the island.
Yeah, we certainly say that about all the folks there on Dauphin Island and along the coast, because that is where a lot of the danger is going to be, and it's the storm surge that takes a lot of lives and does a lot of damage. So if you haven't decided to evacuate yet, now would be a good time. As the mayor just said, the causeway is open at this time. The Dauphin Island Bridge is open, and before sundown is certainly the best time to do it in case you do run into some kind of problem as you try to
Standing
evacuate.
water, anything
Yeah.
like that. When it comes to dark, you won't be able to see. So that is a very smart idea. We have a list of several shelters that are open as well tonight for those of you who do want to evacuate. When we're talking about evacuation from coastal areas, and Atmore, there's one, Rachel Patterson Elementary School, which is on West Craig Street in Atmore.
In Baldwin County, of course, the Robertsdale Coliseum is open. It opened at 1 o'clock today. It's going to be open till 1 o'clock tomorrow. Obviously, that is the biggest shelter in Baldwin County. Curfews, of course, have been discussed. It is mandatory curfew in Gulf Shores and on Orange Beach. 8 o'clock tonight, nobody on the streets until 6 o'clock tomorrow. The rest of Baldwin County is a voluntary curfew. I know all the mayors of the Eastern Shore, Daphne and Fairhope and Spanish Fort, got together with a conference call and decided to keep those curfews voluntary. But again, a good idea not to be outside until early in the morning, because it looks like this storm is coming on shore a little earlier than anticipated.
And in Mobile County, the shelters are Collins Road Elementary School and 8 Mile, Theodore High School in Theodore, North Mobile Middle School in Axis, and Dauphin Island Methodist Church. Also, Burns Middle School in Mobile is the special needs shelter for those people who have Alzheimer's, who are oxygen dependent, stage 4 chemotherapy. Make sure that you bring all your medications and anything that you may need if you're going to Burns Middle School.
And now's the time to do it. As the sun starts to go down, it is going to get very treacherous out there. Not going to be able to see, as Kim mentioned, the standing water out there. And if you are going to evacuate and find one of those shelters, now is the time to do it. Nate has sped up. Nate is coming. Nate will be here sometime between 10 and 12 tonight with winds gusting as high as 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, be very careful. Luckily, it's from what, our meteorologists are saying, we're fortunate that it is coming in earlier because it's not getting the strength that it would have if it would have stayed out in the warm Gulf waters a little bit later than what it was supposed to.
You're watching NBC 15 News coverage, full wall-to-wall coverage from now until the threat of Nate is over. We have reporters stationed from all the way from Orange Beach to Biloxi. We have different cameras all over the place. Take a look right now at what Gulf Shores looks like. I know that Corey Pippen was down there a moment ago, and you can see that band ripping over Gulf Shores right now. And we have a shot right now. I think Corey's getting over there. You can see the water starting to flood even on the beaches and some of those sand fences that are down there right now. The wind is beginning to whip, and it's a perfect time to take a picture, isn't it, Corey?
Got to get that Facebook Live in, and that's exactly what he's doing. Chief Meteorologist Chris Dunn has been tracking Nate before it was even a named storm for several days now, Chris.
Yeah, you can do that stuff on the beach as long as you do it safely. And we encourage everybody to take pictures and relay their stories to us, but do it in a safe manner. That band of showers coming across Gulf Shores looks like it's trending a little bit farther to the east, maybe Orange Beach area. Fairhope has seen a steady stream of rain, and we are just now getting some of the rain reports in. And look at these impressive totals from Fairhope. More than 2 inches of rain so far, and it's certainly not over with. And we're approaching an inch of rain in Mobile, Biloxi 8900ths, and Pascagoula with 4100ths of an inch of rain. Gulf Shores there just more than a half inch of rain. Here is a look at our hurricane, and it's trying to resurge again. It kind of, I don't want to say fizzled out a little bit, but it didn't look quite as impressive a couple of hours ago. But there's a new flare-up that's right there, right near the mouth of the Mississippi River. And it appears that there's a low-level circulation that we're looking at on the radar. And this new flare-up is just to the north of that. So it's trying to hold on to its own. It doesn't look like it's going to gain a whole lot of strength before landfall. Sometimes they do surge a little bit in strength before making landfall, and occasionally some storms kind of back off before making landfall. Hurricane Katrina did just that. before it made landfall in 2005. It weakened just a little bit before coming on shore. Still, obviously, is a powerful hurricane. This one is a Category 1 with sustained winds at 90 miles per hour. That's according to the latest data coming to us from the National Hurricane Center. And the hurricane hunters have been flying the storm and crisscrossing the area and trying to figure out what's happening with it and where it's going. North-northwest wind motion at 23 miles per hour. It's just to the south, and actually this is from the 4 o'clock advisory, and here we are at 6 o'clock. So you can add another 50 miles onto that, and it's very close to the mouth of the Mississippi River. It's possible we could have a brief landfall, kind of a technicality, a technical landfall over the mouth of the Mississippi River here in Louisiana, but we are expecting the primary landfall to occur right here over the course of the coast of Mississippi, just barely to our west. By 1 o'clock in the morning, it's over land. So as Greg and Kim mentioned a little bit earlier, the faster motion will also result in an earlier landfall than we were talking about last night on NBC 15 News. So that continuing that motion, we will find some wobbles in the path, as many hurricanes often do. And within this zone here, it could be anywhere between Pascagoula and Gulfport. And I know that's still a fairly broad area, but we're able to at least narrow it down to this zone at this point in time. So 1 o'clock in the morning, an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane, quickly losing strength as it's pulling away from its source of energy, the warm Gulf of Mexico waters. 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, still a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm between Birmingham and Huntsville. And that also gives us a chance to rapidly recover from this storm. It's going to be a quick hitter. It'll move in quickly and then move out just as quickly. So fortunately for today, the first half of the day, it allowed folks to get out and make all their precautions and prepare for this storm strike that is going to happen tonight. And tomorrow will allow us to clean up anything that Nate leaves behind. Hopefully not a whole lot of messiness, but there certainly will be some downed trees and downed tree limbs and perhaps some power outages. We're already hearing from a handful of power outages so far in our area, and that number will likely increase as we go through the night. Storm surge warning. This is really the main impact from this storm as it moves on shore into Mississippi, because we're on the right side of it, which is the heavy-duty side, the wrong side to be on. Storm surge, steady wind. It has the entire Gulf of Mexico to work with, and it's going to pile up that water along shore from Destin and Fort Walton all the way to Pascagoula, Biloxi, and Gulfport. But the main storm surge concentrated right in this area, right where Mobile Bay is, and that's also going to coincide with the time of high tide. Dauphin Island tonight at 11:50, just before midnight, roughly about the same time that Hurricane Nate will be making landfall. Gulf Shores, the time of high tide at 11 p.m. And I checked with the Coast Guard station Mobile, which would also coincide with what we would expect along the causeway. High tide around 1 o'clock in the morning there. So right about the time that this storm will make landfall, also the high tide in our area, and that will further complicate the storm surge issue. You can see right down here, very close to the mouth of the Mississippi River. This is where we have the center of our storm. We can actually identify by the radar here. There's you can kind of see where there would be an eye wall there. And it does look like there's a little bit of a turn towards the northeast, but I mentioned a lot of times these storms will wob off.
Getting your flu shot at Walgreens is easier than ever. Just walk right in and pay $0 with most insurance. Plus, when you get a flu shot at Walgreens, you help provide a life-saving vaccine to a child in need through the UN Foundation. It's that easy to get your flu shot and make a difference. So swing by your local Walgreens today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Bigger doesn't mean stronger. Don't be defined by a weight class. Bring the heat.